Did you know the Veteran Service Center has transitional housing?
One of the spin-off problems that we see often with the veteran that comes in with post-traumatic stress is substance abuse. And people will say, well, why are these guys on drugs or alcohol? What are they doing? Well, they're coming back from a war zone and they're trying to deal with the very things we had discussed earlier about seeing the horrors of war and being isolated and coming back and not being able to express what's inside them. So we find them self-medicating. And what they do is to be able to sleep at night, to make all those demons go away, if you will. They either turn to drugs or they turn to alcohol to alleviate those symptoms and try to get some sleep. So now you have two monkeys on your back. You have post-traumatic stress, which is a mental health issue, and then you've added addiction of some kind on top of that to try to overcome the first one you had, and it just layers up and layers up and layers up. And pretty soon you've built a pretty big hole. Another sad statistic is the suicide rate, which goes hand in hand with the post-traumatic stress and the traumatic brain injury. I have figures that say that from the Afghan war when it started in 2001 to date, over 900 individuals, military individuals, took their life while on active duty. 900 in the last 9 years. And it's estimated that 18 veterans take their own life every single day. 18 veterans a day. The Vietnam War, we lost about 58,000 veterans in the war, but it's estimated between 150,000 and 250,000 have taken their own life. What a sad commentary that is. And it's because the mental health stigma that you're a soldier, you suck it up, you don't whine and cry because you have a wound in your head. But that's what all this transpires from, is the mental health issues, not being able to cope, and so the only way out is you take your own life. And how sad it is that they just couldn't reach out or somebody couldn't reach them. So that's another program we're addressing very vigorously, is to listen to what they're saying, ensure that they're protected, ensure that they get the help that they need. If a veteran with a mental health condition had that same condition any place else on their body, an open wound on their hand or their arm or their leg, it would be kind of a badge of honor, if you will. I got that in the war, but because it's a mental health issue, because it's in their brain, they feel it's bad, if something's wrong with them, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't want it's weakness. They look at it as weakness. It's not. It takes a hero, a real hero, to come in and ask for the help that you need, because it not only does it affect you, but it affects everybody in your family, everybody in your community. And so as a community, we need to look around and make sure that we're getting these people the help that they need. Back in the Vietnam days, it was a term called gone postal. And what happened there was you got a lot of guys who came back from the Vietnam War, and so they would look for government jobs. And if you're a Vietnam vet, a war vet, you got 5% or 5 points towards the testing, and you got another 5 points if you're a disabled vet. So the only government jobs we have that are relatively available in most communities was the post office. So you find a lot of these vets will get hired because they got 10 points coming right in off the bat, and they get into a high-stress situation, which the post office job was, and then they would just flip out, and they would go on postal. And there would be a shooting at a post office, and you'd always hear them say, well, it must have been another Vietnam vet that flipped out, and that's where the term gone postal. And I was talking with a reporter not too long ago, and she said, you don't hear that term anymore. And I said, well, the old Vietnam vets have retired from the post office, ones that didn't take themselves out, and so they're gone now, but you're going to hear it coming again because we have a whole new crop. 1 out of 3 of the Iraqi and Afghan vets coming back have post-traumatic stress. And if we don't get a handle on it and we don't deal with it, it's not a matter of if it's going to happen, it's when it's going to happen. And I guarantee you that it will, and it will affect this community. And then somebody will wake up and say, hey, what's happened? Why aren't we taking care of our vets? Why are they doing this? And the suicide rate and the murder rate, the homicide rate is also very high, because unfortunately when these veterans act out, they act out to the person that's closest to them, and that happens to be their spouse. And so the spouses are the ones that take the battering, the domestic violence charges that you'll see. And another uniqueness that we touched on earlier is the female veteran. Is the female veteran with post-traumatic stress going to act out against the alpha male? Probably not. So who is going to take the brunt of their acting out? It's going to be the children, because they're the closest, and they're the ones that are going to take the brunt of that. So again, we have a whole society worth of problems coming down, and individuals are going to be affected. And again, you don't have to have a veteran in your family to be affected by it, because if they're in your workplace, or if they're in your church, or if they're in your community, they live next door to you, there's problems. We have a lot of little time bombs walking around this community. We had over 350 vets that deployed between the 180th and the 1436. 1 out of 3's got post-traumatic, do the math. We have over 100 veterans walking around minimum in this community with post-traumatic stress. And how many of them are being treated? That's a scary thought. You know, and another little sidebar to the veteran, number one is active duty military. You're put in a very stressful situation. You've chosen a job that's pretty hazardous, pretty dangerous. Depends on what career field you go into or where they send you. But by you signing up and going in the military, there's distinct possibility that you could be greatly harmed or lose your life. And so that's always working on you in your mind is, why do I want to serve my country? Why do I want to do this? And there's a myriad of reasons why the people do. From it's the, my family's always done this. There's always been a veteran. Somebody in my family has always served their country very proudly. And you'll see with most families, traditionally they stick with whatever branch of service your dad or your grandpa was in. That's kind of a tradition, whether it's Navy, Air Force, Army, Coast Guard, or Marine. You just do that. But very proud, and a lot of veterans serve their country because it's the right thing to do. That's what they want to do. Some serve it because its educational benefits are there, or it's a great job and they're going to train you, or you get to see the world. There's all kinds of good reasons to join the military, but every military person I've ever met has been very proud to wear the uniform. And even during Vietnam, we were very proud of what we did as the service members and to support our way of life, and we do it again. And you can ask these veterans when they come home from the Iraq War, no matter how bad they may be damaged, they want to go back because it's a job that needs to be done. Political side, it doesn't matter. The bottom line is they're there with their comrades, with their buddies, with their fellow soldiers and airmen and Marines and Navy folks, and they're doing the job that they were trained to do, that our country asked them to do. And so if something should happen to them, then we definitely owe these people, when they come home, to embrace them, thank them for their service. And that's something that you don't hear too often is, if you run into a military person who happens to be in uniform, or you hear that they're home, or you see a veteran, just say, hey, thanks for your service. It really means a lot that somebody really appreciated and cared what you did and put yourself in harm's way. So anyway, when you get trained, and you're sent off to do your job, then you're exposed to all kinds of wild things. In Vietnam, it was the Agent Orange, and took years before we saw the ramifications of what that dioxins have done to the military and to some dependents. There are dependents that some conditions that are out there right now that the VA says was a direct result of exposure to Agent Orange of the veteran, so their children or their grandchildren. So we can discuss that later on also. There's the handling of depleted uranium that they're being exposed to. World War II vets were exposed to nuclear testing. And then there's the Cold War injuries. The first Gulf War vets were exposed to all kinds of things with these oil fires burning, the types of gases they were afraid that we were going to find when we got over to Iraq and Afghanistan. The injections of sarin gas, the injections that their own government gave us as antibiotics and things to stop these conditions from happening. Pesticides that we're exposed to because of the animals and the ticks and whatever else was over there. So cold injuries, heat injuries from being in hot, being in the cold climates. There's a lot of things that come back. And we know a lot about these right now, and we're set up for them. That's the thing. We're set up. The VA has really come light years ahead of being able to help veterans. We know what traumatic brain injuries are. They lead the world in studying brain injuries. I just read a study where they did people who were vegetative state. They brought back 74% of them were awoken, as the term used. And in the same studies in civilian hospitals, they were lucky if they got it in the 30 or 40 range. So what the VA is doing is a cutting edge prosthetics. This is the first war where we had the largest percentage of amputees and multiple amputees. Well, the prosthetics that the VA has developed and designed are so advanced that now you can lose a limb and you can stay on active duty because you're able to complete the PT test and stay in the military. And before that, you were done for. You were out, you couldn't continue your career. So there's many steps, and a lot of things have come a long ways, and the training is there, and the skills are there, and the help is there. The bottom line is getting the vet to come in. It's the old story I always say, you can drag a horse to water, and you can stick his head in there, and they can either drink water, blow bubbles, or drown. And that's all you can do. So it's up to us, if the veteran's not willing to come in, to bring him in to get the help that they really need to have. For those of you who answered the call when your government called you, we appreciate that. We thank you for what you did. And now, if you have to call the government, we want the government to be there to answer your call for assistance. And as I said earlier, it's up to the community to reach out 83% of all the families in the United States, 83% have a veteran someplace in that family. So everybody knows one, whether you know them through your work, through your clergy, through the church you go to, through the market you shop at, through any place that you go, veterans are there. So if you are cognizant of a vet, or you hear a family member say, well, you know, so-and-so came home and boy, they're just not coping very well, they're having problems, they can't find a job, just keep this in your back of your mind. And it's your duty as a non-veteran, as a person who got to sit back here in the United States and enjoy all the freedoms that we've been able to provide, it's your duty to say, hey, did you know that there's a place that you can go or start with that you might be able to get the help that you need? And that's maybe all it takes, is for somebody to pick up a phone or grab them by the hand and say, hey, come on with me and let me take you someplace where there's folks waiting to help you and give you the help that you need. So that's what we really like to have you do as a community, is to reach out and touch somebody and bring them in out of the cold, bring them home. And tell them thank you for their service and welcome home. That goes a long, long ways. As we said at the beginning of this program, or the starting of this new program, we want to design it around you. We want your input. We'll take this show where you want it to go. You know, veterans, did you know? If you don't know, ask us, and we'll be able to help you find the answers to the questions that you have, no matter what it is. There's not a question that you can ask that we can't find an answer to it. And always people say, well, this is a dumb question. Well, the only dumb question to me is a question that wasn't asked. So if you give us the guidance, we're going to have a website listed at the bottom of the show here as you're looking through it. And send us your information, send us your questions, send us your stories. Send us some ideas that you'd like to see on this show, because we'll build it around what you want to do. When I started this Veteran Service Center in 1990, I had 153 people contact me the very first month looking for assistance. Today, we average over 3,000 client contacts every single month, and we built the program around what the veterans' needs are. And as I said earlier, I'm very proud to say you can walk in here and I can meet all your basic needs right here without going anyplace else. But we need to always add, we always need to improvise, we always need to bring new standards in and new programs in. So you tell us, either by phone or email, what you want to hear, what you want answered, and we'll provide those answers for you. This is your program. Hope you enjoyed it.